after Lifeline.
Joe Duffy.
Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815.
Suzanne Costello of the Samaritans. Suzanne, good afternoon. You want to make a quick point about the reporting of death by suicide. There are guidelines apparently. Were they kept in this case that Mary Louise brought up from this week's Gory Guardian?
Well, unfortunately, in this case, they don't seem to have been adhered to, and they are just guidelines. But I think it's important to just endorse what Mary Louise is saying, that the reporting of method of suicide is extremely unhelpful and should be avoided at all costs. Most of the newspapers adhere to those sort of guidelines, and they can sometimes be people who are unaware of it, perhaps are getting confused around reporting the detail of the coroner's court, and they make that error. But I think it's important to note that newspapers, radio and television should never report message in the case of someone taking their own life, because it's unhelpful for vulnerable people who may be accessing those forms of media. You know, and you can never realise whether people are vulnerable or not in a particular audience, so that's why reporting of method is inadvisable.
And this the mention in this case of the actual drug, which no, I had never heard of before, the name, that should be removed. Without this Mary Louise point, it shouldn't have been in the paper, she feels, and also should be removed from their website.
It should be removed from the website because it acts as a sort of almost a how-to guide, and there are methods that people will be unaware of, and there's a lot of evidence to show that people who have had suicidal ideation have obtained information as to how to attempt to take their own lives by information that's gone out in the media, and that's why most media outlets are very strict around the reporting of method.
Thanks indeed. That's Suzanne Costello of the Samaritans. Jimmy Norman is on the line. Jimmy's been mentioned again and again over the last few days in relation to the charity he set up. Jimmy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe. How are you?
Good. It's called Avian's Pink Toy.
It is indeed, Joe. Yes, it's called Avian's Pink Toy.
Why?
I started up the Pink Toy after we lost my darling Avian through cancer. And so I call it Avian's Pink Toy because when during Avian's life, everything that we held for all of the fundraising activities that we held, my brother-in-law came up with the idea of all wearing pink toys to show solidarity with her. And it just seemed to seem such a lovely thing, and then we called it Avian's Pink Toy. And it just seems so poetic, and the abbreviation is APT, A-P-T, which means that I think what we do is apt.
And what do you do, Jimmy? I know, but anyone listening over the last few days would have heard your name mentioned so often, and Avian's Pink Toy. You're a charity specifically for people who find themselves and their children, obviously, in St. John's Ward in Crumlin.
That's correct, Joe. We are totally dedicated to St. John's Ward in Crumlin, and I really want to thank you, Joe, for this opportunity, because we have another huge problem in Ireland, is to raise awareness of childhood cancer. The people who are, other ladies and gentlemen on there speaking earlier on and saying that there's probably be 150 kids, but there's actually an increase, Joe. There's probably going to be 220 children this year. So what we try to do is we try to ease the burden as much as we can. So we will, if people need money for the shopping, if they need home heating oil, if they, we do fundraisers for families. We'll intervene as much as we can. We've done some nice little pleasant things there recently. We put dresses on the ward from a company called Kids Bits. We put dresses out to all of the children on the ward. We're doing a little thing now for all the little boys on the ward. But we generally try to do anything that we can, Joe. Anything that's of any help to the families when they come to us, whether it be financial or just even myself and the Lion.
And you say things like, because we heard you paid for some people were clamped, believe it or not, outside the hospital, people parking the inordinate parking fee in all hospitals around the country, and the difficulties around, and that you help out, and there's no questions asked. You just, if you hear about this, you'll do your best.
The magic part about it, Joe, is it's all the parents that help each other. The general advice I get is from other parents. Parents will come to me and say something to me, in private. Could you do this, or could you help this person? And that's the way we do it. It's actually the parents that all look after each other. And so it's not really specific down to one thing. It can be so many different things that we get involved in. And that's why it's hard to pin one thing down, Joe.
Okay, and Avian unfortunately died in 2009, in January 2009. She was only She passed away. She was diagnosed in 2009. She passed away relatively quickly afterwards in April 2010, and she was 8, just 6 days before her 9th birthday. How do you fundraise? How do people give you money?
We have the way we get fundraised at the moment, Joe, is on our Facebook page. We have a Avian's Pink Toy Facebook page. There's donate buttons on that. But this year alone, we've had a huge amount of support. We had Peyton Taylor became a champion of Avian's Pink Toy, and that raised huge amount of awareness. With that as well, that the Irish Army brought the Cadet Corps on board, and we raised significant amounts of money in that. We have a lot of girls running the mini marathon for us coming up shortly. And then people have just come to us doing like skydiving events and then runs, and we actually have Jared Duff is doing 4 marathons for us as well. He's a sergeant in the Irish Army, and so it's a myriad of fundraising events going on.
Okay, and Avian is spelled AOIBHEANN, just for people trying to look it up. It's really. Jimmy, what do you do in your day-to-day life?
Well, that's it. I'm actually an aircraft mechanic, Joe. I was this is with the foundation stones of Avian's Pink Toy when we were born inside on the John's ward, because I was in ICU. Myself and my wife were in ICU with Avian. She'd had a very, very serious operation. She had a 2.5 kilo tumour removed, and she also had her kidney was removed, and part of her diaphragm. She was bald. She had 2 epidurals in her back, and she was really, really heavily sedated at the time. She'd had most of her blood transfused. And I was looking at television in the ward to get the news that SR Techniques, the company that I had worked for 11 years with, closed down. And if it hadn't been for all of my friends and my family and all the people who supported me over the year of Avian's battle, I would have been absolutely lost and devastated, Joe. I would have had absolutely nothing. And this thing about the medical cards, Joe, the medical card is the most important thing to a parent of a child with cancer. It's not like any other thing, Joe. It is absolutely essential. One of the ladies there said €1,000 a day. There was injections that Avian was getting into when she was neutropenic, which means that she was no defence against infection. She had to get an injection in her leg, Joe. I think there were €3,000, Joe. I mean, there's no way. Like, you could be a very wealthy person, and it shouldn't matter whether you're wealthy or not. We owe it to the children of this country to protect them, Joe. We owe it to protect them. We made the new charter. We've made some terrible mistakes in the past, Joe. And now is our chance. And I just believe that a child that goes into the ward should just automatically get a medical card. You know, there's so much expense involved in it.
Jimmy, I'm looking at the screen, and hopefully and apologies to them, I'm over time, but that other people are worried in similar situations that you went through, i.e. in St. John's ward. They're worried about their medical card as well, because there seems to be a much stricter regime for some reason. Jimmy Norman, thanks indeed. I know Hand in Hand Charity, the West of Ireland, also they're in the same frame as well, and you liaise with them and vice versa. Thanks indeed, Jimmy Norman. It's called Avian's Pink Toy, the Crumlin fundraising with Owen Smith and Angus O'Markey. That's called fixcrumlin.ie. That's specifically for the facilities in St. John's ward. That's all from today's programme. Great community support there among those people. Producer was Emma Laffin. Community programme tonight at 8:30 on RT Television is Local Heroes, where the people of Wexford come together to try and do something in the current economic turmoil, and that's on RT1 Television. Until tomorrow, good afternoon. Derek Mooney is next.
1850 715 815 stays open until 3:15 p.m. or email joe@rte.ie.
Thank you very much indeed, Joe. News headlines now with Ray Kennedy.
Thank you, Derek, and good afternoon from the newsroom. Taoiseach Enda Kenny has said he does not believe today's summit of EU leaders in Brussels will be difficult for Ireland. Mr Kenny was speaking amid the continuing controversy sparked by the US Senate Committee's investigation of Apple, which has put Ireland's tax relationship with the computer giant under intense media focus. A significant part of the one-day summit is focusing on the question of tax evasion and fraud. Our Europe correspondent Paul Cunningham.
Without being prompted, the Taoiseach Enda Kenny got straight into a stout defence of Ireland's tax system when he arrived for today's EU Leaders Summit. He said Ireland's corporate tax rate is statute-based, is very clear, is very transparent, and we do not do special deals with individual companies in regard to that tax rate. Asked about reports that the European Commission had been in contact with the Irish government about its tax relationship with Apple, Mr Kenny said the European